Namaste, Pranam, Gita Dhyanam. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatva manusandadhami Bhagavad Gite Bhavadveshinim. O Bhagavad Gita, with which Lord Narayana himself gave enlightenment to Partha, the ancient sage Vyasa included it in the Mahabharata. O Goddess, showerer of the nectar-like knowledge of non-dualism contained in your 18 chapters, O my affectionate mother, the destroyer of rebirth, I meditate upon you. Krishnavatana. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kansachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Son of Vasudeva, the slayer of Kansa and Chanur, extreme delight for Mother Devaki, O Lord Krishna, the supreme teacher of the universe, my salutations to you. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Kshetradnya Vibhag Yoga, 13th Adhyay, and Sri Krishna has told us some traits, some qualities, some qualifications of this Kshetra, of this body, which can lead us to understanding the Kshetradnya, which can lead us to understanding the ultimate reality of which is controlling this Kshetra, which is controlling this playground as such, which is controlling this field. And in the 7th Shloka, Sri Krishna told us about those 9 qualities, that amanitvam, adambhitvam, ahimsa, kshantihi, arjavam. The humility and unpretentiousness, that I'm no great. I'm just an ordinary child of the mother. I'm just an ordinary, simple, guileless devotee of the Lord. Adambhitvam and ahimsa, non-injury in terms of not just the physical injury or physical killing. It is non-injury to the mind, to the emotions of all the beings. Why trouble them? Why act in such a way that they are hurt in any way? Not just physical hurt, the mental hurt, the emotional hurt. Don't get into that, Sri Krishna says. Ahimsa. Then kshantihi, the forgiveness, the biggest quality a person can have, the topmost quality a person can have, forgiveness. If one is blessed with the quality of forgiveness, that's it. There is no cursing, there is no shouting, there is no ill feeling towards anybody with that quality of kshantihi, with that quality of forgiveness, forbearance and forgiveness. And arjavam, uprightness, holding on to the values, holding on to the principles, holding on to the path that one has chosen. Upright. Don't deviate. Don't bow down to the evil. Don't bow down to the wrongdoing. You don't do anything wrong. Don't get involved. Don't lose the path that you have chosen. That is what Sri Krishna says. Be upright about it. Then, Acharyopasana. Acharyopasana is serving to the Guru. Serving all those from whom we learn. Now here Guru is not just the Guru who is teaching us in a formal way. In our life, we keep on accumulating knowledge through so many sources. Sometimes even the youngsters, they teach us. Sometimes, like the story of the Avduta, he had 24 gurus. He learned from the ants, he learned from the birds, he learned from all the animals also. So he had 24 gurus for that matter. And same thing happens with us. From so many various different sources, Google is the biggest guru now for all of us. So basically, serving the guru. Be obedient. Have a respectful and reverential attitude towards those from whom we have learned something. Not just today we learn something from others. Maybe from our colleagues, our peers, our superiors, sometimes even from our juniors also we learn. And then after having learned a few things from all these people, shun them. That is not the thing to be done. But Sri Krishna says, Acharya Pasaram, serve them, have reverential attitude towards those from whom you have learned something. Shaucham, purity. And purity is always referred to as the external as well as internal purity. It is not the purity of the physical body alone, the outer sheath alone, but purity of thought, word and deed. Purity of the mind, purity of the intellect. That is what Sri Krishna means by Shaucham, the external and internal purity. Then Sthiryam, the steadfastness. If I have chosen this path, if I have taken up this path which is going to lead me towards liberation, which is going to lead me towards enlightenment, then I have to steadily, I have to wholeheartedly follow that path. That is the sthirata, that is the sthiryam. And finally, the ninth qualification Sri Krishna has asked for this body to be is Atma Vinigraha, that self-control. Self-control in terms of controlling the senses, controlling the sense organs, controlling the mind, controlling the intellect, the external and the internal faculties under full control. Let there be thousands and millions of temptations which are luring us, but not getting lured. That kind of self-control. The moment a person possesses that self-control, half the things are true. The person is already on the path of liberation then. So these are the 9 qualities Sri Krishna had told in the 7th shloka, and in the 8th shloka Sri Krishna again told us about 3 more qualities. So totally 12 qualities, qualifications that Sri Krishna has told for this body. Indriyartheshu vairagyam, the dispassion for all the sense objects and the senses. Once the person develops that dispassion, then no sense objects can lure. No sense objects can tempt the sense organs. No sense objects can tempt the indriyas. And that is indriyartheshu vairagyam. And second, anahankaraha. Get rid of that ego. Get rid of that pride. Get rid of that high-headedness. I am so and so. Till the time we are not humble, till the time we are not, we possess that lowly kind of attitude. Amanitvam and adambhitvam. Similarly, anahankaraha, non-egoness. Just get rid of that absence of the ego. Get rid of that ego. Let there be no ego attached to this sheath. I may have done so many great things, but if I have that ego of I have done it, it just nullifies all the greatness attached to the things that I have done. So just kill the ego, and like Sri Ramakrishna used to tell, that it is extremely difficult to kill the ego, but then convert this wretched ego, convert this unripe ego into ripe ego. Convert this wretched ego into the ego of a child of the mother. Child of the mother is also, its ego is so high because the child totally depends on its mother. So get rid of the ego. And the third quality, then finally Sri Krishna told us in this 8th shloka, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Dosha Anudarshanam. Realize this fact. Have this clear-cut understanding that the birth, death, old age, and the ailments, the illnesses, the sicknesses, these are all extremely painful. Don't try to get into that cycle of birth and death again and again and again. Try to get away from that cycle of birth and death because it is absolutely painful. Birth, then old age, ailments, the sickness and the illnesses, and finally the death. Sri Krishna says always keep it in mind, always bear it in mind that this entire process from birth to death, which involves old age, ailments, is extremely painful. Always have that realization, always keep that up in your mind, and that will motivate us to walk on this path to attain liberation, to attain moksha, to attain mukti from these repeated cycles of birth and death. So that was the 8th shlok that we had read, and Sri Ramakrishna had told us in this particular regard that our devotion, a man's devotion, grows in direct proportion to the detachment from the objects of senses. How much indriyarthe vairagyam we develop, our nearness to God depends on that. The more we develop detachment from getting lured by the senses, more nearer we come to the Lord. So that was about the 12 primary qualities, the qualifications that the Kshetra, the body, should possess in order to go forward, in order to achieve the desired goal. And Sri Krishna doesn't stop just at those 12. Here are some more. Sri Krishna wants us to be perfect on our path. He wants us to gain that perfection of reaching towards the ultimate goal of nirvana, mukti, moksha. So Sri Krishna in the 9th shloka is telling us, asaktiranabhiṣvaṅgaḥ putradāragṛhādiṣu. Asakti anabhiṣvaṅgaḥ. Asakti anabhiṣvaṅgaḥ putradāragṛhādiṣu. Nityaṃ samacittatvamiṣṭāniṣṭopapattiṣu. Asakti is detachment, total detachment. While asakti is attachment, asakti is total detachment. Detachment from what? And the detachment and anabhiṣvaṅgaḥ. Anabhiṣvaṅgaḥ is attachment, identification with the self. Anabhiṣvaṅgaḥ, non-identification with the self. That non-identification with this lower creature, with this lower self. Lower self is detached from the higher self. The Jivatman is detached from the Paramatman. So don't give much importance to this Jivatman, because the ultimate reality is the Paramatman. Jivatman is trapped inside here in this sheath, in this Kshetra. So don't give much importance to this self. Don't give importance to anything attached with this Kshetra, with me and mine for that matter. Don't give any importance. Don't identify yourself with this body. This body is not me. This Kshetra is not me. The Jivatman inside is also, in a way, not me, because who has the right to this Jivatman? It is only the Paramatman who has the right to this Jivatma. So, non-identification of the self. And then, non-attachment with what? Non-attachment, asakti with putradāragṛhādiṣu. Be detached towards your children, towards your son, your wife, your home and the rest, your dwelling place and the rest. Don't have any attachment for that matter, because in reality they are not yours. They are all his. You are also not yours. You are also his. So one has to develop that non-attachment, that quality of non-attachment, that quality of asakti towards the self, non-attachment towards self, non-attachment towards sons, daughters, non-attachment towards wife or husband, the spouse, and non-attachment towards even our dwelling places and others which we claim to be our own. My house, my cars, my farms, my properties, all the whatever we identify as belonging to me, that connection has to be cut off. That connection has to be cut to pieces, cut asunder. Sri Krishna says, asaktihi anabhiṣvaṅgaḥ putradāragṛhādiṣu nityaṃ ca samacittatvamiṣṭāniṣṭopapattiṣu. And nityaṃ, constantly one should have this attitude of equanimity. Samacittavam, the balanced attitude, quality of equal-mindedness towards ishta and anishta. Whether anything good is happening, whether anything bad is happening, towards the attainment of upapattiṣu is attainment of ishta and anishta. One should be always trading the middle path. Like always Sri Krishna says that one should not get elated with anything good happening, and one should not start crying over the spilt milk. If something goes wrong, there is no point in crying over, because whatever is happening is the will of the Lord. So Krishna in this 9th Shloka teaches us that unattachment, non-identification of self with son, wife, house and the rest of the things which are otherwise claimed as my possessions. That non-identification of self with these things. I am not there in any of these. I am the Lord's. And constant equanimity in the occurrence of desirable and undesirable. We have to be equiminded. If something good happens, something bad happens. This is the trait, another trait that Sri Krishna wants all the devotees to build up in order to reach the ultimate goal. The objects of senses to which man gets deeply attached, if not to the enjoyment thereof. Such attachments require to be eliminated by discrimination. Use that intellect, buddhi, that the greatest power that the Lord has given us to know what is real. Lord has given us the power of buddhi, a unique power of discrimination, of realizing what is real, what is unreal. And use that power to discriminate. Is it real? Is it unreal? If it is unreal, get detached. As simple as that. So, such attachments require to be eliminated through discrimination. Inordinate identification with son, wife and home drives one to the position of holding them as one's own self. My son, my wife, my house, my properties. You know how much it is identifying all these external bodies. I am identifying with me. external things I am identifying with me. There is no need. I only belong to the Lord. That is the ultimate realization. Ailment, if any of a kith causes misery to one due to yes, it is natural. We feel bad if some near and dear ones they are sick. But then we try to forget that it is the Lord's will. The death of wife or son deals a greater blow than the death of oneself can possibly render. My own death, of course, I will never be able to notice or watch. But a death of a near and dear ones, yes, we notice, and then we feel so sorry about it. The loss of even the earthly possessions. For a miser, the loss of earthly possession brings complete frustration to him. Everything we lose in this life brings about that frustration. And Krishna says, we have to be samacittatvamiṣṭāniṣṭopapattiṣu. We have to be equiminded, whether good happens, ishta happens or anishta happens. Let us not lose our peace of mind. Our basic quality is to remain in the bliss. We have that power of anandam, of the Satchidanandam. So Sri Krishna says, don't deviate from that. Don't get trapped into these meager, good things happening, bad things happening, and getting swayed by those happenings in the life. The right attitude, therefore, is to view all beings, all possessions as belonging to the Lord. Nothing is mine. And worldly events are prone to cause likes and dislikes in a worldly man, but the spiritual aspirant ought to practice even-mindedness in all eventualities. Whether good happening, bad happening, and if we look at our own lives, at one point if something bad has happened, maybe 10 years, 20 years from that happening, we realize that was actually not that bad. That was not, at that point of time, we were totally frustrated because we felt that is the only worst thing to happen to us in our life. But at a later time, at a later date, we realized that no, it was not that bad. Yeah, fine. We laugh at those things happening. Therefore, Krishna says, whenever anything happens, don't get into that immediate reaction, either to start jumping up and down or to start crying jug full of tears. So that is what Krishna's message to us in this 9th shloka, that this is what we should develop ourselves. We should evolve ourselves into that quality of being non-attached and not identifying ourselves with any of these physical possessions that we have. The family, the wife, husband, child, or house, property, fields, farms, all these things. Let us not identify with any of these. These are the Lord's. He is taking care of them. He will do whatever He wants to do with them. Right? So, let me be in bliss. Let me not lose my calm. And Sri Ramakrishna on this, he tells us, a person found it very difficult to meditate on God because of his inordinate attachment to a relative. A person was so fond of the relative that the moment he started, whenever he used to sit for japa or meditation, suddenly the face of that nearmost relative used to appear before him. And his all attention, devotion used to get distracted from his Ishtadevata. Then what happened? His guru told him, well, your mind is getting distracted by that relative of yours, by that child in your family. Consider Lord is there in that child. Whenever that child appears before you, the face of that child, the face of that person appears before you, consider that face of that person as the Lord's face. And what happened? Behold your favorite relative as God coming in front of in that form was the advice given to him by his guru. On pursuing that attitude, meditation on the Lord became so easy to that person. Because then it was no more a distraction. It was, in fact, the Lord Himself. In fact, it was the Divine Mother herself appearing in the form of that beloved relative. So, automatically, what was earlier distracting that person, distracting that devotee from meditation, automatically, all the attention, all the concentration started getting focused on that relative in the thought of God. And meditation became so easy for that person. So this is what happens. Till the time we identify the close relatives, the family members as my family members, my wife, my husband, my son, my daughter, my friend, my nephew, my niece, till the time it is always troublesome. But the moment we start realizing all these are nothing but the manifestations of the Lord. So what? She's my wife. She's the manifestation of the Divine Mother. So what if she's my daughter? She's the manifestation of the Divine Mother. So what if he's my son? He's the manifestation of the Lord. When that understanding dawns, automatically our attachment to these individualistic relationships, which are so feeble for that matter, it vanishes and what happens is this relationship becomes much stronger in terms of our bonding with the Lord. When we start saying Lord in my son, when we start saying the goddess, the mother in my daughter, automatically that relationship becomes much stronger, and identification with the self just vanishes. This is what Sri Krishna wants to do, and that is what he has told us in this ninth shloka, to gain these three more qualities and proceed further on the path of liberation, on the path of enlightenment, on the path of illumination. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sri Krishna Arpanamastu. Jai Sri Ramakrishna. Jai Thakur Jai Ma. Jai Swamiji.